Yes, there you go. Well, hello there, everyone. I think we're live. I think we're recording. So, welcome to another episode of Amplifying F Sharp. Let me share my screen and let's get our introduction going. Amplifying F Sharp is an initiative where we just want to bet on improving the F Sharp ecosystem. Our bread and butter is a bunch of sessions that we do, like the one today, where we just try and explain how something works or do a, showcase some cool technology in case of today. Um, we try to do this session thing on a weekly basis. If you ever have like an interesting idea, or you want to hear something, you want to, you know a topic, just see it, say it, sorted, fill out this thing, get in touch with us, and we'll either try and facilitate someone that can bring the content, or you yourself can bring the content. That's all fine. We have been doing a lot of these sessions in the past. We're almost at session 50. So basically, be afraid if the session might not entirely fit. We're definitely flexible. Anything F sharp can really go. We're really still looking for people to do these kind of session things because the well is more or less running dry. Let's not kid ourselves here. Where the last couple sessions has just been the core team here. That's fine with us, but we definitely just want to see some different faces because it's a large community. Or the community is definitely larger than our usual crowd here. So yeah, don't be shy. Please do the join us thing. Fill in the form. And if you have anything just interesting F sharp to say, we'd be happy to have you. That being said, since I guess more or less a month, we also have an open collective. And with the open collective, we're trying to collect some money to, do more than we can do today. We have some basic cost of operations that we try to cover with our open collective, but we also have some additional tiers, some dreams, what we could do if we had some more money. Our current ongoing initiative is about getting a tour of F Sharp web experience. So like a sort of website setting where you can walk through and learn about the language, have good introduction. We'll share some more details about the concrete stuff of that when we have those. But if you are one of our generous sponsors, thank you so much. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please do reach out. We really want to be open. It's in the name, Open Collective. And if you have anything you want to ask us, any feedback whatsoever, if you feel like we're not doing anything, just really poke us, talk to us. Let's jump on a call. We'd be happy to have you. Last week we had a great session by David about FS Lex and Yak. I really recommend this one. I really enjoyed this. And as a follow-up of that, we also I've learned this week that David did some pull requests to the FS Lexiac project, which allows it to be ran in Fable. And the cool thing is that the session we had last week was about creating a language for some basic operations, like 3 minus 1. And we can now run that in our browser. Like this uses FSLex, FSYAC, the Lexer, the parser inside of the browser, which is pretty impressive stuff. So huge shout out to David on the extra mile of getting Fable support for this in, and definitely check the sample over here. This is just interesting stuff. This is really our parser, yeah, from the parser, our Lexer that's been generated, I believe, and just really cool things.
Yeah.
Not sure if you want to add something, David.
One thing is still needed. If the goal was that you just have to copy paste your auto-generated lexer and parser, and that generally works now with the latest FS Lexiac release. But you still need to comment out the line directives with the hash, like in the first line here, because Fable
Oh, interesting.
can't process that yet. I'm going to look into that one. Maybe we can do something about it. But yeah, that's one little manual step you still have to do. But otherwise, it's yeah. I think it's pretty straightforward now. Yeah.
Yeah, probably is worth looking into if Fable can just ignore what's happening here and yeah, not try and process that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Cool. Then one of the other things that we do with Amplifying F Sharp is the F Sharp Essentials series, which is a partnership with Ian Russell and Edgar, and that tries to just teach newcomers to newcomers to F Sharp, just the basics of F Sharp. We have 2 weeks left, I believe, in the course, and you are still very, free to join, even if you missed all the previous sessions. There are recordings on YouTube. Yeah, these happen every Wednesday, so definitely check them out. And I believe I covered everything of our little introduction. So today's session is going to be Fable and Astro. This is definitely going to be a little bit more niche, but a little bit more on the front end side. And yeah, I'll be presenting myself. And we're just going to take a little bit of a look of what Astro is. Astro is a sort of static site generator. In our case, it can be more. You can do server-side rendering with Astro. You can actually go a lot of directions in this. But the interesting thing is that we chose Astro to build this website. So at some point, somebody asked us like, hey, you're called Amplifying F Sharp, but your website isn't even in F Sharp. What's up with that? And today, we'll try to address that to have a little bit of more F Sharp in our website. So first up, let's look into Astro just a little bit. I already prepared a bit of a branch to do some setup, but when you create a new Astro project, it's going to be your typical run-of-the-mill node project or NPM stuff. So we have a package JSON, we have Astro, we're going to use React into Astro, and Astro uses Vite behind the scenes. So you basically start a certain script. We'll be using bun today. So we're going to do bun run dev. The dev script is going to run Astro. And that's basically going to launch our website and our local host. And shouldn't have done that one. Let's try it again. Yes, which is going to be the same website as we see here. Now, one little thing that I noticed is that you kind of get this the first time you run it, and then refreshing it seems to fix it. So we'll go with that just real quick. So this is our Astro dev server. When you want to work with Astro, in our case, we're doing a fully static HTML CSS website. So this spins up the dev server. We can edit our files. We'll easily see changes if we make them. So this index HTML sort of the index, the root is linked to the source page's index Astro. So that's just a convention. So we have our header here making a difference. Let's type in foo. We saved. We have this foo over here. So that's basically what you expect of these things. And Astro is rather interesting. So they have their own file format. The file format exists out of two pieces. There's a section that runs on either your server or is part of your HTML generation. So this runs in Node. So in our case, it just runs in the dev server, and it's going to be part of what happens to return static HTML. And Astro really tries to just ship HTML and CSS. It's not really heavy on front end or on JavaScript side of things. So it's not like a single application out of the box. No, out of the box, it really tries to send you HTML and CSS. And it uses components and a lot of things that are very similar to how React and JSX works. But don't be fooled, this is all server side. This is really like a templating engine, a layout system. We can import layouts from other files, but we can also import components from other ecosystems, which we'll see in a bit. We'll be importing React components, and we can totally mix and match that with Astro because of their good integration. So the interesting thing is that you can do like a lot out of the box, but then if you have a very nice Vue plugin that you noticed somewhere, you can just really wire it up and use it in Astro as well. One other compelling thing in Astro is the way they do scoped styling. So if you get a certain point, I'll have a style block. I put in a header over here, and then the style will apply to my header that I define somewhere here. But this really is scoped to the file. So all these components, when you put style blocks in, they'll be sort of generated with a specific, well, random ID in between. And then only the styles are going to be applied to the header tag, which you defined over here. So that's really a nice way of reasoning about your HTML CSS, is that you um, basically have everything very close to each other. Like if you want to know that, oh, we want to change this thing, they would just go look into the file. Perhaps this was a separate component, but if it was, then the style would just be next or near to the component. And it's just really scopes. Like I'm not going to interfere with some other styles define other components. I can just safely, style my header over here, and then have another component and have a header there as well. So that's one of the nice things, and I'm saying it really grew on me. Like writing your style as close as possible to your component was a bit weird. So I used to want to have real good separation. Like you have for example, a SAS style sheet. You do all your good stuff there, and then you basically load it in, and it finds its way to the HTML in the browser. But having these two closer is just really interesting for sort of problem solving. If you ever need to fix an issue, then you just find the component in the tree and then sort of deal with it. This isn't really strictly tied to Astro, but it's one of the more popular ways of doing things. So as I mentioned, if you just have the source folder, a pages, and then an Astro file, that will just lead to the Astro. So I have a blog Astro file. So if I just go blog over here, you'll see that this will resonate with, for example, the blog file over here. Uh, What else? So Astro also has the concept of collections. Collections can basically come from anywhere, but in our case are static collections where we have a bunch of markdown files. So in our source content, we have some folders, blog, sessions, testimonials. These are configured in a config TS. And in that config TS, you're going to say, oh, define a collection, and the schema looks like this. It's an object with a title, preview, offer in case of testimonials. And when you see a testimonial file has a markdown file with some front matter. So we call these things in between the dashes front matter. And this title, preview, offer is then part of our configuration here. And this all feels very loose, but you actually get very good IntelliSense because of that definition. So if I'm going to type foo over here, I think it's okay. It's not going to complain, but it's not going to know foo anywhere outside when we were to use that collection in Astro. So it's nicely tied together. So that is all great, and that's all interactive. And then, for example, when we go to our session page, which is currently not working for good reasons, let me get back to that pretty soon. But our session page, for example, creates a bunch of sessions in, upcoming and in the past. This is something you need to do in the browser. You cannot statically render everything as an HTML file, ship it to the client, because you do not know upfront whether the sessions are going to be in the past or still in the future for the person opening that page. So you need to make that distinction about, oh, these are all my sessions. Whether they are in the past or in the future is going to be based on the current day. So you'll need some JavaScript to address that. And what we do here is that we actually have a sessions JSX page, which is your basic React components. Again, some styles defined over here. But whether the sessions are in the past or in the future, we can just do some calculation. We do that based on the current date. In this case, we're saying like, oh, give me all the sessions in the future plus 2 hours before they actually after they started, so that this current session stays 2 hours while the session more or less is present, stays in the future, and then we sort of render this. So this does use JavaScript on the client. This does run in your browser. That's this being made. And that is the part today where we're going to try and use Fable. So we're going to try and integrate and try and replace stuff like these with some actual F# code. Now, as I mentioned, Astro is using Vite under the covers, and in one of our past sessions, we learned that there was a plugin for Fable and Vite to sort of combine these. And that's exactly what I've already done so far. So I downloaded the Vite plugin, I hooked it into the Astro config. So Astro allows you to override some of the defaults for Vite. I put in a plugin, Fable plugin. It looks at an FS proj. That FS project file is somewhere in our project. It contains a bunch of files. It contains a reference to some React bindings. And then the Fable plugin sort of takes it from there. So the interesting part, like the TLDR of this session, is that if you use this, you're never gonna write the F# files first to disk to JavaScript. You're gonna do that in memory, and it's all really a very smooth experience. So going back to our sessions, let's maybe first go to our homepage and let's look at a first example of a JavaScript component. So we are going to create a React component, but basically in JavaScript. I have a little time component, which is going to print the current time. So it uses state, and it has one effect where it's just constantly after 1 second. So as you can see, after 1 second, it's going to update time, and then we sort of reuse that time and we render that. This is your run-of-the-mill React experience. Use state, use effects. And we'll now just try and get that into our index page. So as with any component, we will import it. So we can import time from the components. And because our Fable plugin is hooked in, it will have an understanding of what to do when it's trying to import from an FS file. So that FS file will then be first converted by Fable to JavaScript, and that's why that time import will work. So to one up components, that's all right. And then we'll be able to use this by over here. And as you can see, fast refresh worked. Our time is being re-rendered, so that's very nice. Now we can only see the minutes. Let's go for a too long time string. We save it again, and then we see the seconds. But we notice that our set interval isn't updating the time. So you would think that it just constantly, after every second, updates the time. And that's not the case. Remember, this is server-side rendering. So what we did here is import this time component. This time component in React is going to be rendered on the server. It's not going to bother with these effects because, you're just creating static HTML, so it's not going to be, I think, hooking into this. And the state will be the initial state, which is the instance. If I refresh my browser, you can see that the time changed. Now, in order to let this run on the client, we'll need to jump through a little bit of hoops. And one thing that I noticed is that if we, we need to tell Astro that, hey, this should load on the client. So we can first say client loads, or it's client only, I believe. Yes, client only equals React. So you should only render this on the client, and the rendering mechanism is React. And now we notice that, the component is even gone. So that didn't quite work. And the reason this doesn't work is that the Astro dev server is now trying to load our F#FS file, but it is not being recognized as a JavaScript application, header, which allows module loading to work. So basically, this just doesn't have the correct header, and it just tries to download this as a file, and it's not expecting that this is JavaScript at all. Which is something in the default Vite experience is something that you don't really need to deal with the plugin. But in our case, I needed to inform the Astro server just a little bit more. And to do that, I just basically created a little plugin. The plugin won't really go over to much detail, but we basically are going to hook into the Astro server. We're going to add some middleware. We're going to say like, hey, if this is an F-sharp URL, then add the query string import and set the header. So in order to import anything in your browser when you're using the like import foo from bar, this can work in your browser, but you basically need bar.js to reply with an application JavaScript header. So that's what we're doing here. And then we're just calling the next middleware. One other thing, not that important, but the hot module update didn't cycle through, and I believe that's because Astro just doesn't expect the FS files to ever trigger these kind of hot module updates. So we detect them by the URL again, and then we send them ourselves. Don't overly worry about that. That's not really the interesting bit. But when I restart my dev server, and yes, a little sad, I actually had to restart the dev server. It didn't really automatically pick that up. But now I believe that my client load works, and you can see that the time's updating. So we're actually looking at a React component which is rendered on the client. And the nice thing, of course, is that we're able to use this right as an F#. So one of the things that I also already went ahead with and tried was update the sessions. Now the sessions JSX needs to filter the incoming sessions and then do the check if it's an before after 2 hour the current time plus 2 hours. And the nice thing where if we use Fable, we can just use stuff that's back into the F# core, which for example is array partition, where we just say like, hey, let's just sort all the arrays first, and then let's just partition them. I want the ones before it now in 2 hours and the one afters, and so I have my path to my upcoming sessions. And it's these little quality of life kind of things which make Fable and then F# have an appeal in this setup. Because then, in plain JavaScript, there's always a little less, and it's little things, but it's definitely a nice experience. So again, to then use the sessions in our Astro page, we need to get the sessions from the grid. Then we use the session, we tell them, hey, render this on the client. We pass in sessions from, from the server, from these are going to be static. This is going to be a bunch of JSON. And if we then go to the sessions, you'll see that there's no new session in sight. That is kind of an interesting one. So the session already started, so maybe there's some logic off in our session script. Let's do like a quick peek at that. So it converts the current day, it adds 2 hours. Did I miss that? Huh, okay. Probably should have been minus 2 hours. Yes, that probably makes sense. Anyway, you can just see that the whole experience is rather instant, so that's definitely one of the nicer things. If I wanted to add an H1 tag, then it's just all very very fastly there. The hot module worked, and we can basically just have that seamless experience. So, like I mentioned, this is all just part of the Vite plugin. The interesting stuff happens here. If you want to learn more about that, we have a session that goes more in depth. But today, just to sort of wrap up, it's going to be a shorter session. I wanted to fix our join us page. So our join us .astro is currently coming from a component right now. That component contains just a little bit of logic. Now you need to fill in everything, and then we double check if you really did fill in everything. And if you want to work on a specific issue, you can put in a link. If you want to work on a project, we give you a little list on suggestions like, hey, you want to work on Ionite, for example. And when you press submit, yeah, fill in the time zone. Let me fill in the topic. Go. When you press submit, we just basically redirect you to our GitHub repository, and then we continue the conversation like, hey, what time are you available, etc. Or if we have some follow-up questions or whatnot. So if we want to have this into F sharp, I created another F sharp page for that. So there should be something sessions fs where, sorry, no, join us, where we have the same little thing. We have a form. It's using the same styling. So let me just swap these out. Go. And this is all more or less the same thing. But you can see that now it's still showing us all the text inputs. It's not conditional yet. So from that point of view, that's the thing that we still wanna fix. And yeah, I just left that part out a little bit explicitly to just give you a little bit of a feel of how, how smooth the experience is. When it comes to the fast refresh factor in React, there are a couple of rules to that. If you create a component, you can basically, in this file, only have one default export, or it's recommended to have default export and nothing else public. The best way to do that is actually just to create a signature file. Like in the signature file, we're saying that there's this prop alias because we actually don't need it. And we can then say that this is the only thing that should be publicly exposed. So if we later want to write a helper over here somehow, like we're not bothered to put that in private, because if we were not to do it in private, then we change our file, but then the file change cannot fully refresh the browser, and we were to lose our state in the component. So that's just one important thing that we're covering. Like, hey, only the component itself, the React component, can be public, and that's how the fast refresh works. Let's try and then see that in action in a bit. So yeah, what other thing did I try to do? I used another JavaScript library of the day, which is something called React Hook Form, and this definitely was a bit overkill. This has this register a field value thing and then get the values and watch it and then handle submission and all these good things. Let's try and get it a little bit more simpler, and let's maybe type in a model to just capture all of our fields. Let's do some, your React components, your basic one directional flow and some bindings, and then just double check if the model is valid. And if it is, then open the link to the browser. So company name, time zone, topic, call this thing itch, type itch, issue link, string, project link, um, other info string and anything else string, and then basically each could be like a union, which would be specific of string, specific issue maybe, project unknown, maybe also a string. Basically that can be all the same itch. I'm really making this up as I'm going, so Let's try model and set model, and then do something like use state by function. Do a model.0. Static number 0, which is going to return the model. And I probably could work with optionals, but I think it's going to be slightly more convenient to work with empty strings because basically when you, we're in an invalid state, so our component can't render. But when you're typing in, the browser, the input element always is going to have a string. Like that's not going to be null or undefined. So it's better to just capture what's happening there than having anything else. Let's say specific issue of an empty string. And anything else is also going to be an empty string, so that's good. So yeah, it already says here HTML invalid, could not do fast express, but I think our file is valid, so we can see that it still is. And basically, we need to use the default value for like the model, so something like model and name. And then when this changes, we'll need to take the change value. So this value is a shorthand for target value. And we could go the Elmish way where we send a message and then update our model, but yeah, I don't, we're not doing anything complicated, so I'll just use the set model function, which takes in a function of the past model and the next model, and we can just do like an update of that model and say that this is the next value. Yep. Then yeah, this basically the set model is using the set states. This is really how a React component works. It's going to update the model, and then next time it renders, it can use that model information and then fill it into default. So when I type in foo over here, and let's say I now want to do model.name, we can see that there's foo over here as well. That's your unidirectional data flow that you have right here. Cool. So moving on is going to be a little bit repetitive, but you kind of need the same things for the others. So we can say that the default value is the model and company. I might realize that I'm going a little fast here, so definitely speak up if you have any questions. The company, time zone, topic. Definitely can finish these things later. But the interesting thing is that let's just do one more little example. So the company should work, and I fill in the company. Oh, let's go with bar maybe. Yeah, notice that this foo is just still present, and that's really why why people are excited about this whole Astro Vite experience that if I put in the name over here, then it still is the thing that I typed. Like I've updated my code, I've updated my React components. The browser knows, but the browser did not refresh at all, and it still knows about who. It still knows about bar, and yeah, and pretty much just enter anything here. So, yes, and Now we have this itch where we need to select the check this true for the selected itch. So in this case, let me think. Well, it's probably so model. Can I already use is itch? It's a Is that an F#8 thing? Does anybody know? At some point in a DU, you'll be able to use is the union case.
Yeah, it might be a. Is Ryder able to use like the latest FCS or something, or is it?
I am using VS Code here, my dear
Oh,
friends.
it is good. Oh, okay. Well, then this might not be as latest. I don't know when that got shipped, so.
Um,
I don't think it has been released in a stable SDK yet.
yeah, probably makes sense. Plus, I'm not quite sure if Fable knows about it as well. So just like two gotchas there. Um, well, let's maybe write it ourselves real quick. Uh,
I think the compiler or compliance, so you need to do something fancy.
issue. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's like you have to specific because like the compiler knows that it will generate that, but
Oh yeah, it does indeed.
it doesn't expose it. But if you write it yourself, you can't do it either. It's really an
Gotcha.
annoying edge case.
I do remember that like at some point we'll be able to do that. So let's go to the specific issue, and we'll need to do that for all of them. So check is really if it's yeah, if it's in an HTML specific thing for radio buttons. Where do you say check? Um, so this only checks the value. We change the default value to be unknown. Then I'm expecting it to highlight this.
I don't think we added it to unknown or in the HTML.
Uh,
Oh,
no,
we did. Okay.
what did? Yeah, okay. Uh, try. Oh yeah, this kind of makes sense. It's the initial value, so changing that doesn't necessarily affect the state. This will only now happen when I refresh the browser, so that kind of makes sense. Okay. We of course need to be able to, change this value when we actually click these buttons. So going back to itch, we can have like a little click in here. and default, and then set the model. That's the model, and then we go model with edge dot specific issue. Let's reset the string. Yeah, would expect that this works. A look at our React components. So our form should have our model over here in a hook. So it has h with tag 0. We click on this, and the click is not updating the model. So I'm expecting the tag here to at least change. Yes, and this actually happens for a good reason, because we attached our click to our input handler, which I'm using some clever CSS for to kind of hide away, and we'll need to add that to the label instead. Label. Now, notice that this DSL is basically just using properties, React properties as the first list parameter, and then children as the second. And that's just, for me personally, I feel like that's a lot closer to what React actually does. And that's just a little bit more convenient. So going here, and of course formatting helps a lot. And there we go. We have our click that's working. Lastly, you can do like a pattern match on our model H, which would be a specific issue of issue texts. And we're going to just indent these. And say that the default value is then the issue text. And when we want to update, change, we can just set the model here to be the updated model with the itch being specific issue and the text, the value is the other cases as well. And one nice little thing is that the project is, has a data list, and this gives you a couple of options. That's also rather nice. Model. Go. And for a text area, we can basically do the same thing. There we go. So we now have specific issue. I can now put like a link to the issue. Or if I'm going to work on specific projects, you can see our data list is over here. And of course, if I toggle between the two, I'm going to, update the state to like the default value to an empty string. Still trying to figure out, gives us the text box. And if I just were to, okay, I want to know, did the model now have the string? Let's do like JS.JSON stringify, just to model.h. And we can see that the tag is unknown and we have our value over here. So that's a little sanity check. But notice like there's no debugging, there's no console logging. It's just you write a bit of HTML or in your site of your components. It's all here in the moment. The state is all there. So yeah, good stuff. So anything else is more or less like the time zone. And when we hit the submit, we want to have an on submit. Let's say submit form. Maybe a function that we don't have yet. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate the href over here to be like have like a long query string, which then has the GitHub text, and have a click on that to sort of trigger the navigation. So now the component is gone because of course I didn't have my my function over here. So the event will be browser types. Event, form events, event, I think. Where the first thing we want to do is prevent the default, because the default behavior when clicking on a form is just to an actual post, or submit the form via an action, which is a post or a get, and we basically want to prevent that, and then just do some JavaScript. Where so we'll cheat what we did in our form over here. We basically composed a body, set the href, encoded that, set the attribute, and reset the form. So, I don't know, can we easily grapple that and see what to do? Yeah, maybe. Let's just try and convert this JavaScript to that sharp. We'll just do like an interpolated string. And topic. And then in this case, the topic would be the model. Yeah, so probably need to pass down the model. Yeah, so that model dot what is the topic? Topic was a form field. Um, what? Do we have a topic here? Oh yeah, I do. So model dot topic. Just keep it all just a little shorter for now. Because again, most of this isn't the interesting stuff. Let's just say session topic. Good stuff. I close our string. So the href is actually going to be another string, which leads to our GitHub page, a new issue, and then the title is going to be the URI encoded title and the body. URI encode is a helper in the browser, so we'll need to get access to that in Fable, which would be something like, does it exist, or do I need an open? Yeah, it's going to be the one. Body. Yeah, close the string. Go. The title. Let's go with model topic again. We need to set this on the link ref, which you can pass in as well. And yeah, let's go with link element maybe, and just pass in the element from the React ref. So it'd be browser type element probably. Yep. Yep. So now our submit form needs a couple more things, which would be the model, and which would be the link ref.current. And again, cheating a little bit. Topic. Your time zone, your topic. Stuff. Submit button. So the nice thing is that we added required a bunch of times, and that just really, without even doing code ourselves, the browser just respects that. That's like an HTML5 thing. We basically at the end will only validate our own model in case of older browsers, but you can be really pretty safe that just using this will actually ensure that you get all the good values. Issue itch, so a little fast there. Ref to blank. Bit form. Default, the attribute. Maybe the console log href. See if we have everything there. No, the validation is always going to be there, so let's just put in everything defaults. Refresh, see the default values, press submit, still need the time zone. But yeah, we didn't bother to wire up the time zone. Let's do that real quick. Default value, time zone, go. Ooh, oh, that was nice. And topic, fake default value, topic. do a full. Oh yeah, of course, I'm a bit of an idiot. We're doing on submit on the button, but you actually want that on the form itself. So the prevent default prevented the submit on the button, but it needs to be a little bit higher. It needs to be part of our styled component, which our styled component in this case is going to be our actual form. Which is slightly more tricky as I'm gonna need to jump to a little hoop here. Basically, we need to add this property, but the helper function styled components doesn't really take any properties. So we'll need to check what happens over here. And we'll probably want to call this directly. So don't be overly puzzled by this. This is just some DSL that's a little bit more work in progress than I really want to admit. Basically, we're just going to create a JSX tag for the styled elements. The children are going to be all these. And we're going to try and get that same property. Is this possibly? Go. This works. Issue here. At this point, the joiners has children undefined. Yes, this on submit probably be on submit like this. Yep, there we have it. And okay, now we have undefined of reading set attributes, so that's definitely the next thing to fix. But the good thing is that our on submit form is definitely happening. You can see the prevent submit happened. So we have good stuff over here. We have the link elements. Actually try this again. The link element is just indeed plain old undefined, which makes me wonder if the ref is correctly hooked up. So we have a ref property over here, which is a link ref. Use ref, so I kind of would expect that to work. Given the link ref current. Alright, maybe one more refresh. Still undefined. Let's check. Yeah, the ref is undefined. And this is a bit of a React thing, so we'll need to think about that. Maybe I'm maxing it too early, or if this needs current, although I don't think it's current there. Oh. Do a little console log to see, does this at some point become something? So current and undefined. Take one more look at how it used to work. There was a href, it had a ref to link ref. just create it with useref from React. Or are we doing the same in the browser? Let's check that. Form useref here, link ref useref. Oh, looks pretty solid. This is interesting. So the link ref is over here. It is in our submit form, but I was expecting it to be here. And you can see that the JSX generation happened here, here, and then it seems to stop at the button. So Fable, or the plugin that's using to generate this, isn't really doing the right thing. It's no longer creating JSX for some reason. So let's take a look at what the reason might be. Button, anything else? This is quite interesting. Hit the button. It is doing the anchor tag, but it's not, for some reason, not respecting the ref. Hmm. Don't really got an answer for this one. Uh, it is, of course, the ugly duck in the row. Like this is E, the href. So maybe this ref needs to be similar to how this is being generated. So let's try and come up with a ref like this. It might be that's the reason why that the plugin isn't transforming it, so it's due to the lack of the ref. I believe this was just like a static member of ref that would take in a value, which is object, and it returns ref objects box. This might need an attribute. So the TLDR is this is just me being stubborn and having my own little React DSL invention of the day, and I'll just need to cheat at what I did. Let's take a look. Yep. And the reason I went for my own little React kind of thing was that the plugin reuses the latest way to generate JSX. So Fable generates JSX, and then ES-build inside of Vite takes over the generation of JSX. Because there actually are two flavors of JSX, and this is sort of the newer one, which Fable React doesn't support and Police also doesn't. So that sort of was the reasoning. Now, maybe, just maybe, this is starting to work, although yeah, still no ref here. So just invalid use of type name. Yes, because it is ref. Hey, there we go. Now this is called value. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It should be called ref, so this probably needs to be ref. Yep, there we go. And now let's do one more try. Did this lock? Yes, this locked the issue, but this is still okay. A is current, so wishful thinking. We now go to our on submit, do the actual link clicking. This now might work. Up, and there we go. We opened the link, the good stuff, and the issue description. And I'll tweak this a little bit more. And then we'll, have actually the same that we have, but in a nice F# fashion. All right, this definitely was a lot and was a lot of deep dive. So I don't know if there's any questions or whatnot on this at some point. Just reach out to me. Know that I'm into this stuff. David, Jimmy, any last words from you before we can wrap this up?
No, just thanks for the deep dive.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing that like module reload stuff work with this so really well, that's really exciting and sweet to see.
Thanks. All right, folks. So that was all for today. We are amplifying F#. Catch the F# Essential lectures next week. And yeah, looking forward to the next session. See you, everyone.
Bye.